Hello and welcome to the channel, Gav Axeman Spins. So today's video is all things Newcastle, because they finally won a match yesterday. I'm filming this the day after the cup final where they beat the mighty Liverpool and won the trophy for the first time, not only in my lifetime but even David Atkinson's lifetime. That's how long ago it is since they actually won something. So I grew up in the era of Kevin Keegan, Alan Shearer, that type of stuff, and quite mad really, a club of that size never to win anything. So as a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, I kind of feel the Geordies' pain. So it's great that a once mighty club is finally maybe starting to reap some rewards, well deserved as well. They were a far better team. Anyhow, so I'm going to talk today, and you may have already guessed obviously if you've seen the title, but Brian Johnson's autobiography, the second singer of the mighty AC/DC, who took over following the tragic death of Bon Scott. Now, for me, one of the very first albums I bought was Back in Black, which is above me. I really came to AC/DC from the Brian Johnson era, and I've got to be honest, I really didn't know much about Bon Scott when I started listening to AC/DC. I didn't really know the backstory or anything of how Brian Johnson got the gig. Don't know anything about his bands prior to AC/DC, so this was a great book for me. What I liked about this book is the bulk of the book really is about his journey to become the singer of AC/DC. It didn't happen overnight, and sometimes if you think Brian got very lucky landing that gig following a tragedy, there was no luck in that. That was blood, sweat and tears, because this is a chap who really came from not a lot, who when he was first starting to make music and be in bands and be a singer, he was working full-time as well. He absolutely paid his dues. Some great stories, but the bulk of the book is leading up to that offer of the AC/DC gig, and it's great how it all comes about. So I'll try not to spoil it too much. There's one or two tales that I'll kind of share with you. You do find out, for instance, where the origin of the hat came from, and it's for a very practical reason, but you'll find that out in there. There's a great story about him growing up in Newcastle. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently New Year's Eve, all of the ships in the docks sound the foghorns on the stroke of midnight, so that's like a cacophony of noise there. Didn't know that. Lots of stuff about his father, who was came back from the war pretty probably traumatised, but never really spoke about it. And that's quite a common whenever you read books of people of this generation. And although he hadn't got musical talent in terms of playing an instrument, when he heard, I think it's the classic Tutti Frutti Little Richard, once he heard that, that's when he decided a singer is what he wanted to be. So but he worked all the way through, so he had a decent job and he did really well in like a big engineering type of firm, but he was gigging on the side, and he joined the Territorial Army because they were paying, I think, 200 or 300 quid, that if you join them you got like a bonus fee if you completed the training, and he ended up in the parachute regiment, so that was quite interesting tale. But he did that to afford to be able to buy his own PA as a singer, so again, interesting tales. Obviously, some of you may know he was in the band Geordie. I know nothing about that band. And it's interesting how that name came about, because that wasn't the band's kind of idea. There's the obligatory tales of managers that ripped them off, and they had a little bit of success. And there's some great stories about when he first appears on Top of the Pops and in the green room. A couple of DJs, you'll know the one that doesn't come out favourably, but he also threatens to punch Tony Blackburn's lights out for dissing his record on the radio. I found that quite amusing. There's a great story. One of the best things in the book is when he's in Top of the Pops, he's in the green room, and normally the successful artist kind of told the lesser bands or the newer bands to do one, because a big star was coming in. But he goes into the dressing room. Roger Daltrey of The Who is in there doing promoting some of his solo work, and Roger Daltrey kind of befriends Brian Johnson a little bit and suggests to him that if he's not doing anything the weekend, why doesn't he make his way down to Roger's house and he'll do him a Sunday dinner. Now, obviously, Roger, this is the mid-70s, all the money from Tommy and Who's Next and all the big tours they've done is rolling in. And he's got this amazing country pile. Brian, at this point, is basically living hand to mouth. He turns up at the house. Roger Daltrey's very attractive partner's there, who says, "Oh, go and wait by the horse barn." He's out riding a horse. And Roger Daltrey comes round the corner, bare-chested, full rock god mode, riding a horse bareback and bare-chested, and I thought that was a great story. But even better is, after cooking him the most amazing Sunday dinner that Brian Johnson had ever had, he takes him to one side and he's showing him around the house, and he says, "Look, I know how hard it is. I know the reason I invited you around was I know you probably haven't had a decent meal in God knows how long, but if you keep going, one day this is the reward." And he's showing him his studio and his mansion, and he's kind of said, just keep going. And obviously, what eventually happened, not with Brian Johnson's own band, but the gig for AC/DC, there was a reward at the end of it. In terms of AC/DC, there's a great end of the book really finishes with the recording of Back in Black, and for those who were a bit sniffy, some of the music was written but none of the lyrics were, and there's a lot of detail in there how some of the lyrics came about. And in terms of getting the gig, he was invited to rehearse with the band following the death of Bon Scott, and they played some riffs, and things like Back in Black were born from those rehearsals, and then they went off to Nassau to record the album with Mutt Lange, and it is a classic album, isn't it, Back in Black? In terms of Brian's story with AC/DC, it kind of finishes with the success of Back in Black, the whole making of it, and there is, at the end of the book, it suggests there may be a part 2. There is a great tale here, though, that in the mid-70s, as his band Geordie are kind of coming towards the end, they're playing gigs all over the country, and at one gig somewhere by the seaside, they notice that their support band has got a wonderful, one of those American silver tour buses, and they're called Stray. And he watches a bit of the support band, but he's knackered because he's driving here, there and everywhere. And they go back to the digs, and then there's some stones thrown out the window, and the support band have been locked out of their B&B and have got nowhere to keep. So they kind of open the window and let this support band in, and they're from Australia. And in the morning, he's kind of half asleep, and he starts chatting to the singer of the support band, and they do one more gig together, and it turns out that the singer was none other than Bon Scott of AC/DC, and that's, they think, where Brian Johnson's name may have first been bandied about in the AC/DC camp. He does tour Australia in his Geordie band, and he does come across Malcolm Young as well, who's at a gig collecting money from an AC/DC a gig that took place before. So his name was in the circle, and I think if you read this book, it's a really good read. When he eventually gets the gig and the pot of gold, when you kind of read what's happened in the run up to that, you can't help but kind of root for him. The Geordie, as alluded to, were completely ripped off. He had a very nice house which he thought was being paid for, but his management weren't really paying for it, so he got taken to court, got evicted, got almost declared bankrupt, but the judge actually sided with him and kind of summoned the management to court to explain why they hadn't been paying the mortgage. He built up a second career, and when he gets the AC/DC gig, he's actually running a very successful car roofing company, putting vinyl roofs on cars, which apparently was all the rage in the late 70s. And he was very much umming and ahhing about whether to quit that, because it took a long time to build up. And he's always talks about looking after his kids and his wife and his family. So great book. So I would highly recommend that. So and it doesn't really matter whether you are an AC/DC fan or not. It's a tale really of somebody's kind of dogged determination to achieve his dreams. And Brian, I'm glad to say, did, just as Newcastle United did yesterday, by finally winning something, just as maybe David Atkinson will by getting a holy grail in Den Bosch in a couple of weeks' time. But great book, highly recommended, and away the lads, as they say. Thanks for watching Gav Axeman Spins. Quick thank you to I've had lots of new subscribers in the last month or so, so hopefully I do book reviews and record reviews, you know, I'll do it. But if you are inspired, go out and buy it. It's available in all good bookshops now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.